Welcome to another episode of Players Ball Podcast for AT Aliens by AT Aliens. I'm one of your hosts. I'm going by Aloha Mark this week, back fresh from Hawaii. Went on a cruise with the fam. It was a beautiful time. I may retire there. It's a hell of a flight, so maybe not, but beautiful place. Love it there. We'll go back. I'm joined by my co-host MB, the man to be. How you living, big dog?
I'm doing good, man. Glad you and the fam had a good 4th of July vacation trip. It was
Absolutely, man.
we had a good week ourselves. It was weird stepping away, doing a week without doing the pod. Glad to be back.
Glad
Glad
to
to
be back.
Happy to be talking some Atlanta sports. Lots been going on, so
Lots been going on, and there's some major news to come, right? We are both not as much as we used to be when we were younger, but we're both still video game aficionados, if you will. And one of the most anticipated games in most recent years that I can remember is going to be on the shelves pretty soon, man. So, college game day coming back to us
college
next week,
football 25. The official release
25.
date is July 19th, but if you pre-order and you get the deluxe version, you get it a few days early. So I'll be I pre-ordered mine today. I will
Yes,
be
sir.
playing I will be it will be downloading Monday, and so Monday night I'll be hitting the sticks checking out what they did. It's a decade in the making, so
Yeah.
super excited. So because we're really close to launch day, every day for the last week, EA has been coming out with different pieces to kind of tease the
Yeah.
game.
Promos.
Yeah, so today they launched the player ratings. So a couple lists are floating out there. One of the things to note for the local faithful, you see a couple Georgia G's behind me. Georgia has two players in the top 10 overall ratings. No other school can claim the same. So that's pretty special. I'm excited about that. Georgia is the number one team in the game, and their team has the most what they're tokening impact players on the roster. So it's kind of sad because it takes a little bit of the spice away from taking a program in decline and building them up to a champion, because we're
Yeah.
going to be starting at the top. So I may have to get in there on some Georgia State or Kennesaw action once I've run through a few years with the dogs, because I can't let my dogs go.
Man, I might order it, considering that you're getting it. And then we could possibly do a season where I'm representing the real GSU and you represent the Owls, man.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
So there is a dynasty mode that supports, I forget the number, but you can have like a dozen or so teams online going through the dynasty mode for 30 years of gameplay. Yeah.
Sheesh.
Yeah. So yeah, man, if you get it, copy, holler at me, because I'll throw down. I'll do some KSU Owls for that.
Oh yeah. All right. Consider it done.
I do think they are the worst team in the game.
No
So
way. There's not a
I
worse team than them.
I'm pretty sure they're rated the worst team in the game.
Like Appalachia State. No.
No, Appalachian State has some history. You got to put some
Yeah.
respect on them.
They played Georgia a couple times for sure, but they were like the that softball opener.
Yeah, but they beat Michigan a few years ago. They've beat a couple top 10 team or top 25 ranked teams. They've won a couple national titles in lower divisions. Like, they have some pretty decent prestige for a small school.
That's good to know. I didn't know that. My apologies, App State. I'm sorry. Put some
Yeah.
respect on it.
But yeah, some of the more interesting things, and I find this one particularly interesting given some of our early pod episodes where we talked about NIL and one person in particular, and you predicted that he was going to opt out of the game. And shortly after that pod came out, he came out and said, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to be in the video game until I'm a starter.
Mm-hmm.
But in recent days, he has decided to change his mind, and Arch Manning will be present in College Football 25.
What do you think changed his mind? I have an answer.
The hype.
Oh no, man, it's the dollar bucks. I bet you. So he has a commercial. I don't know how many other players are featured in the commercial. You know, Eli got paid for that commercial. I'm sure Arch got paid for that commercial, and that may have been, the level of dollar or prestige that the Manning name felt they deserved, right?
I, I give credence to that. You know, he did use Eli, Uncle Eli, in his announcement, in his official announcement that he was going to be in the game. So,
Yeah, I'm in the game.
you put
It's in the game.
you put two and two together, and I'd say you're probably right on your suspicions that there were some
Some
dollar
funds
bills.
were exchanged. The dollar
Yeah,
bucks were moving
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. So in that same light, the other big list player ratings that people were looking at today specifically were the quarterbacks. And Carson Beck was rated as the number 2 quarterback. I believe he should be number 1, and you can argue that he is number 1 in the game based off of overall ratings. He is tied with who was listed as number 1. And that number 1 would be none other than Shedeur Sanders. And I'm pretty surprised by that rating, to be honest. There's a lot of quarterbacks in this class that I feel like have proved themselves a little bit more than Shedeur on the field. Now, I don't want to take away from his talent because he's a outstanding player. He has a lot of potential. But I feel like it came out of left field that he was coined as the number 1 player in the game. Well, not in the game overall, but number 1 quarterback in the game. So
I 93. Okay. Looking at, I know at one point for on a pod, we spent a lot of time just comparing quarterbacks. When we were talking, it was pre-draft. We were looking at Michael Penix numbers versus like Patrick Mahomes from back in the day, and then Carson Beck, who I had somewhat disrespected, right? I didn't know Carson had put up numbers like that, but I thought that Shadeur's numbers, especially from an accuracy standpoint,
they're
were
way up
better.
there.
Yeah, he was like the most accurate or one of the most accurate college passers last year.
He was also one of the most sacked
Well, that's not
quarterbacks.
on him.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes holding the
It
ball.
is. His line was trash though.
I
Like they were
mean,
getting abused. That's one of the points that Dion was making that he wanted to emphasize during this offseason was to get better in the trenches, to do a lot of get some strong boys out of the transfer portal to protect Shador and then put some pressure on the other side. Get some big bodies out there.
yeah, the other thing that's kind of, I think, a little bit surprising when you look at it on a surface level is Colorado as a whole. Their team rating is up there in like the top 25, where they won 4
They
games
weren't
last
ranked
year.
in the top 25, right?
No, they won 4 games last year. Other than Shador, they've lost a decent amount of their talent. Now, they've brought in a ton of people from the transfer portal. That roster has turned over so much over the last offseason that predicting how they're going to perform is kind of crazy. Just from the standpoint of there's really no sample size to go back on. They lost their top running back. They lost a 5-star corner that he didn't really see the field last year until towards the end of the year, but they lost some pretty big talent. Now they are projected to, or at least I think out of Dion's mouth, projected to have 4 players drafted in the first round, which would be pretty outstanding for a program like Colorado, at least in the modern era. They do have a pretty historic past, but it's been a long, long time since Colorado football has been really relevant.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I can name 3 that I think are probably first round, right? Between Shador, Shiloh, and the guy who's potentially the number 1 overall pick,
Travis,
and Travis Hunter. So 4, I don't know who the 4th guy would be, but 4 is not gonna. It doesn't seem impossible.
I was a little bit surprised. So Travis Hunter was in the top 10 overall for the game. But I was surprised he wasn't in like the top 5.
Really?
Yeah. I was fully prepared for him to be number 1. Just with the athleticism, the fact that he plays both sides of the ball. There's a lot of things. Travis Hunter is an outstanding talent.
He's a freak.
Yeah. So, but he's still in there. Like, he's deservedly top 10, right? I would have put him top 5, maybe even top 3.
Not to linger on it, but I have a curiosity towards how they treated freshmen. Like, you came in as a 5-star. Was your ranking still a level lower than a sophomore or a junior who has shown progress? Have they released those ratings yet?
I think.
Or is it just like the best of the best so far?
I've only seen the list of the top 10 and then the quarterbacks, but I do believe you can go out and find all of the player ratings. I don't know specifically what they did for freshmen, but I do know there is an element of composure where freshmen will get more rattled in a game depending on the environment and the circumstance around the game. So there's one fear I have.
Yeah.
Like, I'm super excited for this football game, but there's one fear I have, and that is that they overcomplicated the game trying to make it too realistic to where it diminishes some of the fun factor. But we'll see. We'll see next week. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I could easily see it going that way, right? Like, they added in the crowd and momentum, which has always somewhat been a factor. But in college, the home field advantage is so much more severe than in pro, right?
Yeah.
And they upped it in college football to be more real. They added in a wear and tear. So if you're taking big body shots to your left side and you're a left-handed thrower, like, you might start throwing with a little bit more loft.
Yeah.
And like, you can actually look at the body parts and how they're wearing over time. And the higher the toughness rating you have as a player, the lower the impact of those hits. So you will have more stamina, so to speak, when it comes to the wear and tear system.
I would say I can see where your caution is coming from. That does seem like that could definitely get overbaked very quickly.
Yeah, and it just, in general, they added in the transfer portal, and you have to deal with recruiting, and you have to deal with NIL in a sense, and they've made it so in the past, recruiting, you could kind of cheese the system, but now you don't really have that ability. If you are, say, Appalachian State, and you're going after a 5-star quarterback, and you're trying to So each player has like what's the most important to them, and if exposure is the most important to them, and you only have a couple primetime games on your schedule, you're not going to be able to meet that recruit's desire to be primetime like exposed. Like there's just nothing you can do except for play, do well, and in the next year get more primetime coverage.
Your exposure will increase as the dynasty goes on.
Right. So for teams that are like, say, the KSU Owls, who are on the bottom tier, to build them up is going to take a lot of work. Like you're just not going to be able to go out there and buy 5 stars. You're going to have to do it with lower level talent to start attracting the higher level talent, which is realistic, right? And that's fun. But if I'm in year 30 or 29 as the KSU Owls and I'm just now getting my 5-star recruit, like I might cry.
Yeah, man, that sounds rough.
So no, it'll be fun. I'm excited for it. I think it's been too long, and hopefully that hype, that excitement. Hopefully the game lives up to it. That's all I'm hoping for.
Was game day EA as well, or was that a different studio?
I think it was a different studio. You had college game day and you had NFL game day, and I believe you also had EA Sports, Madden, and college football, or NCAA.
They had all the Easter eggs, right, and the cheat codes and stuff like that. So I hope they incorporate some of that. That was always pretty fun. I do see EA, yeah, NCAA football 10.
Yeah, 14 was the last
they did. Yeah, 14.
That was the last
Michigan
one.
Running back. Who is that? Do you know it that well?
I
don't recognize him.
Denard Robinson, maybe.
I don't know who that is.
He was a quarterback. But anyways, next week, July 19th is the official release. And if you go pre-order it and get the deluxe edition, you can get it 3 days early and get it like me on the 15th on Monday.
College Game Day, give us some money. Sponsor us. We'll play a game on the pod.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much video games cost, though, man. They should give us free copies too. We'll do it for a free copy.
Now, this is like a crazy side anecdote, not to get more off track with that conversation, but my brother-in-law, he's a band director for a high school in Tennessee, and he actually produced some music for the game. And I was like,
oh, that's dope.
Did you get a free copy like all the athletes? And no, they did not.
Well, they paid him, though, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I don't think it was much.
I want a copy too, right? Give me the game.
They paid all the athletes like $60 and a free copy. So
yeah,
I mean, I think
except
his
Arch, right? Arch got that big money.
I don't know. Travis Hunter, Quinn Ewers, and
I don't know who Edwards is.
Donovan Edwards from Michigan. The cover
running back.
Yeah. I'm sure they got a little bit more being cover athletes and being in the promos and stuff, but
yeah. All right, man. Well, looking forward to that. Looking forward to playing with some of these Georgia colleges, both Georgia and Georgia State and KSU. Maybe you do. I don't know who would be easier. Maybe we bring Georgia Tech into the fold, so we won't have to wait 30 years to get that prestige.
I could bring back the rivalry and go with the Georgia Southern Eagles.
Oh yeah, real GSU versus GSOU.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. Well, let's transition, man. We've been talking about that for a while. You had some info on Atlanta United that both broke my heart and was also like, wow, that's savvy business dealings that they're doing. So we lost a couple players. Um, we won't hear one of my favorite calls anymore, which is probably one of the things that was more saddening to me. We will not hear "Goal, Yakamaka" anymore, and that's disappointing. But outside of him, a couple other players that we lost. Um, Riley, I don't remember their names, but fill me in. Fill the
So
people
you
in.
got Tiago Almada, our other designated
Oh,
player.
yeah.
He's going for MLS record transfer fee. He's going. And then Caleb Wiley, the homegrown, I believe he grew up here in the Atlanta Metro. And he went through the Atlanta United Training Club, ATL United 2, up to the big club. He's a young cat. They're closing in on a deal to send him to Chelsea, where Chelsea intends to loan him out to a French club so that he can get some first team starts and basically transition into their developmental program. So, I mean, those are all great things. The money, when you look at the business side of it, it's great for Atlanta United, but as a fan, it's awful. We
You're losing the
fire
best players that you have.
your two biggest stars and one of your upcoming stars. You're losing all of them in one transfer window. It's not the off season. They're prime
Yeah.
season, and it really sucks. Last night they played in the U.S. Open Cup in one of the further rounds and got eliminated by a lesser side. I don't know who they ran out on the field with, but it wasn't Yorgos, it wasn't Tiago Almada, and it wasn't Caleb Wiley. So
Right.
it's just it's going to be a rough one for United moving forward unless they take that money and they go make a big splash in the European or some of the other transfer windows. Go get some talent.
Yeah. You would think it'd take more than one player though, and I know it was a record that we set with the transfer for Tiago Almada. I don't know, man. It just seems like until we maybe the next crop of juniors that are coming in from the youth league would be good. I'm sure that's not why they felt like now was the time to do it. That had to be heavily, heavily relying upon the dollar bucks, the dimes and pennies and all of that. But maybe there is some hope to be there. If I can be hopeful about anything, is that there's some more youth. If this kid, he is 19, he's from Atlanta. You were correct about that. If he was coming through the program, who's back behind him, right? He hasn't been. Well, how long has he been on the professional team?
I think since he was
Um,
16. I think he
let's
made
see, he
his.
debuted. Yeah. Well, he was on the U17 team. Oh, that's international play.
Yeah, he is
2020. Yeah.
4 years
15.
ago. Woo.
Yeah.
Yeah. 15, 16
That's
years old.
wild to be that good, right?
Yeah, and he's on I'm pretty sure he's on the USA team under 20 U20 team. I don't know what the age.
U23 right now.
Okay. I didn't know what the age cutoff was, but it's not the one that just got knocked out of Copa America. It's the one below it age
Yeah.
wise.
There's a U20 and a U23, but right now he's on the U23.
That means he's close to making the big club.
Yeah, the big club. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe there's more people like him behind him, right? It would be my hope. I think they're going to use that money. I don't know how they're going to use that money, but they won't pocket all of it. Some of it will. A lot of it, I'm sure, will go back into the business, but I don't know if that's going to be in the form of players. Maybe you can spend it on a solid coach. Pull a coach in.
I mean, they got to do something.
Player development coach. Yeah.
Rob Valentino, I think he's done admirable given the circumstances that he's taken over the club for the second time. But they got to do something. They got to get a coach in. They got to fire Bocanegra, get that clown out of here. And it's going to be some painful days ahead, I think, for United and United fans. Unfortunately, they're sitting at 10th in their conference right now, and I just don't see them getting much better this year. So we'll see. It's looking like a full rebuild, and
right.
I I pray for you, Atlanta United fans out there. You know,
Us Atlanta United fans, right? You're not a five stripe.
no, I am, but I can handle it. I'm praying for
Yeah,
some other ones that are a little bit more vested in the
I can hear
team,
that.
and so yeah, man, tough days ahead for United.
Well, from one rebuild to another, potentially, I'm gonna switch it up on us and go with the Atlanta Hawks before we talk about that chop on for Atlanta team. So the Atlanta Hawks, right? We've made some transitions. We've made some draft picks. We did not get Zach Edey. I have stopped crying about it, but still a little upset. He made his summer league debut. I'm not going to talk about him. Okay,
He was
the Atlanta
beasted.
Hawks. Yeah, he was. They made two draft picks. I think they were pretty solid. Looking at the players' highlights. Um, I won't say we're in a full rebuild because we still have Trey Young, at least at the moment, but we have since parted with DeJounte Murray in a trade that fostered two first round picks and four players and a second round pick. Um, it might not convey into a good first round pick because the Pelicans, I do think they got significantly better with him. Now, Stay Shapiro, I heard him on the radio this morning. He said, "Who did the Pelicans think they got? Dr. J? Like, it's just DJ Murray. He's good, but come on." So I guess the Pelicans are really they're saying they're gonna win the championship this year with him, right? But so that trade happened, the drafts happened, and there haven't been a whole lot of other moves. We traded AJ Griffin, which is is expected with our draft picks, but how are you feeling, man? Are you feeling like we're in a rebuild? Not as low down as Atlanta United, I would imagine. But tell the people your thoughts, man.
So I like the draft picks, right?
Hmm.
I was prepared for the DJ news. I'm disappointed in the return. Like I wasn't expecting a lot in return, especially not what I didn't expect equal
What we
pay
got?
considering what we gave get them. However, none of those guys I think are really impact players. To make a trade with the Pelicans and give up DJ and not get Brandon Ingram in return is kind of crazy. Um,
So an article came out about that as far as why they didn't want to do that, and they just didn't want to pay Brandon Ingram. So that would have been, I guess, the compensation of the picks and the players who maybe Larry Nance could be a good reserve player off the bench. And we got one of a lottery pick from 2021, I think it is. I can't think of the kid's name right now, but he seems decent. He has a very weird release. He reminds me a little bit of um, the kid in Indiana.
is it you talking about Daniels or whatever from the Pelicans?
Yeah, Dyson Daniels, that's his name. Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks like he can be maybe serviceable off the bench, but we'll see. He looks like another small forward, and we drafted a small forward. The second pick could be small forward, but he's more of a shooting guard. I don't know. We still got a log jam, still got John Dre Hunter. I wasn't too upset about what we got in return. We gave up so much because we thought the DJ was going to come in and be a defensive stalwart, and he wasn't. Um, we talked about that last week, right? He really didn't give us that defensive. I'm not going to say effort, but results that he gave in San Antonio. So I think his price was diminished. We definitely weren't going to get what we gave, and to get what we got, I think I don't have too much of an issue with it. One of the picks is the Lakers. The other one is Sacramento's. That Sacramento pick will probably be a bit lower, as they got DeMar DeRozan, so they got better. The Lakers, I mean, I don't know what kind of improvement they made. I do like their draft pick, but I don't think they got better. They probably got a little worse. And the West is going to be crazy with John Morant coming back. So
And Zach
and them
Edey.
having Zach Edey, I really do think he's going to be like in the running for Rookie of the Year, man. But we'll see. We'll see where that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not upset, so to speak, about the players that we got in return for DJ and the picks. I guess I'm just more perturbed over the overall vision that they've got for this team. In that report, they didn't want to give up Clint Capella. They didn't want to sign and extend Brandon Ingram. The Larry Nance Jr. is, a center kind of, but he's on the small side. There's one issue that I've said I have a big problem with in Atlanta is we play undersized. We've played undersized. We've tried to put power forwards at center for the last 2 decades, and it hasn't worked. And I'm tired of doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different result.
Yeah.
And I'm frustrated as a fan from that perspective, and I'm frustrated at the lack of involvement in free agency. Like, this front office is going to do nothing. They're going to sit on their hands. They're going to do nothing. They're going to try to sell you on this team, and they're going to roll out. And if they're lucky, they'll be a play-in team again. And
as it's currently constructed, I don't know if they're a playing team. They have to do something else. I share your sentiment in that they definitely haven't done nearly enough. But I
they
am
haven't done
optimistic
anything.
that there's more to come. Well, they've done a little bit. They knew that the Trae Young and DJ pairing wasn't working, so they did at least split that.
They cleared some.
They cleared the log jam, some of it. I mean, they refilled it, but they cleared some of the log jam at small forward by trading AJ Griffin. I'm anticipating more trades though, and I know what they said about Clint, so maybe he ends up staying. But I mean, DeAndre Hunter's still there, and we have too many small forwards. You still got. I think Onyeka has some value. I don't see him as a starting center. I wouldn't want really him to start just because how much foul trouble he gets in. He's a solid player, so I don't necessarily want him to leave, but there has to be more. This team, as it's constructed, is not a playing team. It's like 11th, 12th.
They re-signed Krejcik.
Yeah, that was one of the earlier things, right?
No, they just did it today.
Really?
Yeah, and then they let Sadiq Bey walk. He signed elsewhere today. So, yes, they drafted some guys. They traded AJ Griffin during the draft to move up a draft pick, right?
Yeah, to get a second draft pick.
And then the trade of DeJounte Murray, sure. I mean, they got some guys in return, but like I said, they haven't really reconstructed this roster at all. They haven't added anybody to help Trae. They haven't gotten bigger. They haven't gotten better defensively. Like, they've done nothing to improve where we were deficient. And for that, I say, screw you, Tony Wrestler. Sell the team. Sell the team. I'm tired of you.
I'm with that.
Get out of the town. We don't want you. We want someone who's going to break out the pocketbook and go after a championship. Because you nickeling and
put a winning team on the court.
Nickeling and diming it is not going to put a winning team out there.
Of the best remaining free agents,
there aren't any.
It's Tyus Jones.
There isn't. That's what I'm saying.
Tyus Jones, Gary Trent Jr., Spencer Dinwiddie, Isaac Okoro. I like Isaac Okoro, but he's just another small forward. I don't want Gordon Hayward, Precious Achiuwa, Lonnie Walker. Yeah, no, man, it's over as far as free agency is concerned. So we got to do some trades, man.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. This team is going to be bottom of the barrel next year. Mark my word. And it's because the front office sat on their hands and did nothing. You know, I got to tell this story. Well, it's not as good as your encounters, but I was out in Marietta a couple weekends ago. It was after the draft. I think it was 2 Saturdays ago. And we went by this place. It's called Cards HQ. It's you know about Cards HQ?
Is that where you play? Where you and Ben go?
No. This is in Marietta and Cumberland.
Okay.
We've only been there maybe twice. Once the first time they opened because we just happened to be there killing time and we're like, what's this? And we went in to see what it was about. And then we actually went by there purposefully on our way back up from my parents' house. And I walk in and at the cash register checking out is Kyle Korver and his kids. And
is it really?
So like he finishes his stuff and he's talking to his kids and he pauses for a minute. I was like, "Are you Kyle Korver?" And he looked at me. He just gave me this dumbfounded look and then walked off.
He didn't say anything?
Nah, he just was like, "What's up?" And I didn't want to like intrude on that man's space. But man, I should have gave him a piece of my mind about what him and his fellow mates are doing in that front office. A whole lot of nothing.
I would have seen him. I definitely would have. So what's the next play, man? Are we done?
Yeah.
Was he looking like a homeless man like he was on the draft?
Yeah, he had his long hair.
He was long hair, super scruffy. He looked crazy at the draft. Like, who is this guy? Oh my gosh, that's Kyle Korver. I did. Oh, I texted you that who the guy was. That wasn't Tony Wrestler. It was a guy that they were trying to honor. He's been with the organization for a while. The guy that was sitting in the middle and made the call.
Yeah.
So
fire him too.
Yeah, give him
fire them all.
Cutting throats. Get them all out of there.
Start over. Hey, I will say I'm glad we're not the Lakers. Going out and they could have
gave him a championship, man. He's making plays over there. They say after he plays the first game that debut, he's going down to the G League immediately. Is what the articles I've seen have been saying.
They gave him a huge contract for a second-round pick that they could have signed as an undrafted free agent. And you know, second-rounders are not guaranteed a contract. So they gave him big money, didn't have to give him a contract. And in Summer League, he's just chucking up bricks.
Someone was going to sign Bronny or draft him.
I don't know.
Lakers. I know Rich Paul was. They were talking about on the broadcast how he was actively calling around saying, "Hey, don't draft Bronny. He's going to go to Australia or something like that."
Yeah.
So if you don't deter people, maybe they draft him in hopes of,
lure
him. Hey, LeBron, come on over, big dog.
It's cool.
He did take a pay cut. LeBron did.
Sure.
I mean, it's still hundreds of millions of dollars, but he could have gotten more had he wanted it.
They took Bronny's salary out of
LeBron's. They gave Bron's salary to Bronny.
Yeah, so whatever, pish posh. The organization as a whole though is basically LeBron, and he's mafioso boss over there. Just whatever he says goes. And I mean, that's cool if that's how you want to run your organization, but not me. I'm not. My business will not be held hostage by anybody. I want to win.
Would you allow them to hold it hostage if you could get rid of our current ownership? Would you rather
No,
LeBron to be our GM or Tony Wrestler, our owner, or Tony Wrestler,
I don't
or
know.
Landry Fields? LeBron James or Landry Fields is the real comparison there. I think I'm going LeBron.
I mean, their track records are about the same. LeBron
Except they have a
hasn't.
championship.
LeBron
As Le
hasn't.
GM, he has a championship. I know you want to discount the bubble league, but as Le coach and Le GM, he won. Right. And they finished second place in the in league tournament. They ran into a
They.
better
I thought they won the
Nuggets
in
team.
league tournament.
I thought the Pacers won. I know it's Pacers Lakers.
I'm
Maybe they
like
did win it. Yeah,
hundred
no, they
percent
did
sure
win it.
Lakers won the
Yeah,
the.
they played the Pacers. Pacers lost. The Lakers won the in-season tournament. So I mean, that's saying something. LeBron played like 72 games. Played the most games he had played in a very long time.
Yeah.
If Anthony Davis could not be street clothes, and Dalton Konecki comes in and is an immediate contributor, I mean, it's a lot of ifs, but they can be a play-in team again.
Yeah. They're in a.
Whereas we won't be. As it's currently constructed, we're not going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Unless these rookies just come in like if this kid, this 19-year-old, Zachariah, if he comes in on fire and Jalen Johnson makes a leap and is on the court consistently, maybe we can be a play-in team.
Yeah, I heard something that maybe they're just trying to recreate that Quinn Snyder's trying to go back to the formula that got us to the Eastern Conference, where it was basically Trey and a cast of characters, and Trey was basically the captain steering the ship,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't work when you gave him a co-captain in
Right. It did
DeJounte.
not.
So maybe you just give him Trey and a cast of characters and see what they do, and you basically assess how you want to move your franchise
That's
forward.
exactly what I wanted. I just wanted a slightly better cast of characters.
Yeah.
Right. They were treating Trey and DeJounte like 1A, 1B. You know, he was off the court a lot, even outside of his injury, right? And DeJounte had the ball in his hands a good bit because he needs the ball to be successful, just like Trey does. It's the reason it didn't work out. Um, but that's what I wanted. I want Trey to go back to doing 30 and 10, right? Having 40-point, 50-point games. Couldn't do that with DeJounte. And I think it's admirable that he definitely sacrificed some time with the Rock to try to make that work. So I thought that was a show of maturity from Trey. He doesn't get a whole lot of love. I thought that was a big show for him.
He
But
also,
we got Summer League coming up on Friday. Go ahead. What did you about to say?
I was gonna say, he also missed a month with a finger injury. So
A month, but it's 82 games. He missed like 24. That's a big sample size of where he was on the floor with DeJounte. And then that whole previous season, not whole, but a lot. Yeah, no, whole previous season. That was an off-season signing. All right, so there's a strong enough sample size of where Trey, made sacrifices to try to make it work. So, but we got Summer League starting on Friday. Some Summer League has already started, but Vegas Summer League, where the Hawks will be playing, starts on Friday. They got both the rookies out there, and Kobe Buffkin will be playing. So I'm curious to see how they do, man. I'm gonna try to check a couple of those games out, see how the Hawks do. But from the dumps, from the valleys to the peaks, man.
I
The
don't.
Braves are back, baby.
I'm not. I'm still not there, man. I'm still not quite there yet.
There was a guest host on the morning show that, and you and Sir Squid Billy sit on opposite sides of a lot of different things. Same side on more things that you would like to admit, but on this one, I think you're on opposite sides. The guest made the connection of this season to 2021, and Squid was like, "Oh yeah, you come back every day." Right, so they started slow. They're starting to gain momentum. The bats are waking up. They finally had like in the Diamondback series, a game where they were down, and for all of the season, that meant that game was over, right? Whereas last year, the bats could have been sparked, you know, in the seventh, eighth inning, get some of that magic, late game magic, and they end up winning. This is the first time that they've done that, that I can remember this year, and got a couple of all stars that are going to report. So things are trending in the right direction. Would you at least say that?
Oh, absolutely. I'm
Okay.
there, right? Like I'm fully. Things are trending up. Austin Riley, his bat's starting to come to life. The guys that have been doing it, Ozuna, uh, Kelnick, they're staying hot.
Yeah.
Um, you still want to see more from Matt Olson. You've got some big hits recently out of Duval. You brought back
Duval.
Eddie Rosario, your boy. We brought him
My
back,
boy Eddie. Yeah, man. I
and
might have to get the jersey for real this time.
the Jesse Chavez of the position players
There you go. Yeah.
only performs as a Brave. Gets cut anywhere else he goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, they brought him back, and he's done okay in a small sample size. So, but we're still not really getting the runs that we're used to. As it stands today, we are on track to be 350 runs shy of where we were last year. That's nearly 2 runs per game lower than we were last year. So while things are trending up, we have a long ways to go before we see that electric offense juggernaut that we played with last year. And the sad thing is by and large, the pieces haven't changed, right?
Well, there's a bunch of them missing for sure.
You have 2 big ones that are missing. One you're not going to get back in Ronald Acuna, who during his time on the field this year was just a microcosm of what he was last year. Like nowhere close.
Small sample size.
Small sample size, but
Like a couple of weeks of baseball. Was it a full month?
oh yeah.
Yeah, full month of baseball.
And then Michael Harris, that's the other big cog that's kind of missing. But I'll tell
Oh,
you,
just offensive is what you're talking about.
yeah,
'Cause I'm thinking,
offensively,
got it.
um, you did miss Sean Murphy for a significant stint early, but he's back and he's doing okay. It's just trying to string things together. Kelnick has been great in the leadoff position, but it hasn't always translated into runs because the guys behind him aren't getting them in, right? So I think that's just kind of where we are right now is you have guys starting to turn it on here and there, get on base, get some hits, but we need multiple guys to be getting hits and stringing hits together to produce runs. We're still living and dying in a lot of ways by the long ball, and we're still, I think, 15th, 14th, or 15th in the league in home runs. So
That was the same last year, though. Not the same, right? But we led the league last year. Okay, we were not going to meet the metrics that we set last year. It's one of the greatest offensive seasons of all time. We weren't going to do that again. Coming shy of that still would have been amazing, and we're a couple levels of shy of that for sure. But things they're looking better, man. Especially like the things that we worried about the most in the beginning. Well, I'll speak for myself, was pitching, right? The starting rotation, the youth is coming on strong, but Chris Sale pitching amazing. Renato Lopez pitching amazing. Max Fried back to being amazing. Even Charlie's had like really solid outings. And then the relief over the last month has been pretty solid too. All right. So once the bats, and I say once because I'm confident they will, once the bats light back up, um, it's gonna be beautiful things to come, man.
Yeah, I mean, I was worried about pitching before the start of the season and during the very beginning of the year. But honestly, that's what's really held it down for us. Ronaldo
100%.
Lopez, Chris Sale, and
Yeah.
Max Fried have kept us in contention. We're still today in the same position in the wild card that we were, a month ago. We're 3.5 games up on the wild card, and we're 7.5 games behind the Phillies. So
Which was what, 13 before?
I don't know how bad it got.
It was pretty high. Maybe 12, but it was at least, I remember 12 for sure, 100% on 12. I don't know if it hit, I think it was higher than that, but we've closed the gap a bit. We just took 2 out of 3 in that series from them, and it probably would have been a sweep, if it wasn't for some meltdowns in that first game on Friday. Um, and I definitely look at that positively.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta think. We won 2 out of 3. That nets us a 1 game. We made up 1 game on the Phillies in that series because the first 2 you lost one, so you lost a game. Then you won the next one. You went back level, and then
Went
you
back even, yeah.
then you won one. So you picked up a game during that season. During that series, you did what you had to do. You had to win the series. But you were playing a Phillies team that was down Bryce Harper, that was down Kyle Schwarber. So you weren't playing the Phillies squad that absolutely beat the snot out of the Dodgers last night 10-1. So
A lot of those guys were there. Trey Turner turned up on us. He was around. Who was one of the better Phillies to me is Nick Castellanos. He was playing, right? I know Bryce Harper is their heart and soul, and Kyle Schwarber is, probably number 2, but I think he's like 2B with those other gentlemen. They got a 2, A, B, and C. Trey Turner's been playing out of his mind this month.
yeah, but to your point, we beat up on some of their good pitching. So that
Yeah,
was good to
pitching was
see.
still there. Yeah.
We did what we had to do. I'm hopeful. I've got a positive mindset when it comes to where this team is headed, like trajectory wise, but I'm still cautious. I still am not satisfied with what I'm seeing. I personally don't feel Charlie Morton's got it. He's pitching
Really?
tonight. Yeah, he's pitching tonight. He's given up 3. I don't know what his win-loss record is, but it's 5-5, and his ERA is just shy of 4. He is not awful, but he's not good, right? You're gonna win a start, you're gonna lose a start. He's not someone you can count on to toe the line week in and week out. He hasn't been that all year. Whereas Chris Sale goes out there and you're pretty confident you're going to get the dub. Ronaldo Lopez goes out there, you're pretty confident that you're going to get the dub. Max Fried goes out there, you're pretty confident that you're going to get the dub. Charlie's
So
out
to
there.
have Charlie out there and it's better than, I mean, I know his record set as it is 50-50, but I feel like it's more like a 60-40 in my heart. Right? Does that count for anything?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Honestly, I don't think Max Fried's record's all that great. I'd have to look it up. But Chris Sale and Ronaldo Lopez, 2 of your all-stars, are absolutely lighting it up.
7-4, Max Fried.
Yeah. Which those 4 losses probably were within that first few weeks.
Yeah, nah, he's been really good
Yeah.
since that those first. He looked bad.
Yeah. Real
His
bad.
first couple outings. Yeah,
And he
he's
pitched
come
that.
back into form.
I believe he pitched that first game in the Phillies series and they lost, but I don't think he was credited with the loss. It was
I thought that
probably
was Spencer Strider.
Spencer Strider's been injured, bro. You talking about
No, I'm
Schwellenbach?
saying that. Oh, I thought you were talking about the very first because we opened against the Phillies.
Oh no, I'm talking about I'm talking about
This most recent
yeah.
series win, and that's two, right? Both times we played them, both series we beat them.
Yeah. No, it's good. I mean, we did, like I said, we did what we needed to do. I just am cautious about it. They weren't playing at full strength. We're not playing at full strength. We were at home. You know, it's much harder to go on the road in Philly and beat them. So we'll just have to wait and see how things fly. I think this trade deadline is an important one. It's coming up on July 30th. Just to take a step back, we have, you mentioned a couple All-Stars. We have three. We have Chris Sale, we have Ronaldo Lopez, and you've got Marcelo Zuna for the only position player. I guess you can consider him a position player. But he's going in as a DH. Yeah. He's going to be in the home run derby, so I will actually watch it just to see how he does.
How do you feel about that? Do you
like
feel
it.
are you a proponent of the idea that the home run derby ruins the swing for the rest of the season? It's almost like become the Madden curse of baseball.
I don't know, because Ronald competed in it a couple years in a row, and he still had stellar second halves.
No, he struggled after that year where he did pretty good. He struggled for like a solid month before he could get it back. He's one of the examples I have in my head of like, oh man, he swung
Not
too
last
much,
year.
but then he turned it back on. Yeah, it might have been 2 years ago, but
Yeah. I mean,
did he participate last year? He wasn't in it last year, was he?
I'm pretty sure he was, and went out super early. He did terrible, I'm pretty sure.
So a lot less swings.
No, just not home run swings.
No, a lot less. Like if you don't make it into the later rounds,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
significantly less swings. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think he only made it to the second round in the first time he participated. So, but either way, I'm okay with it. I think Marcel's swing is one that you're not going to really screw up. I don't expect him to go out there and do super well in it, but I'm going to watch and see. But with that,
feels good to be represented, right?
Yeah. So to fast forward, trade deadline's coming up. We've talked about pitching. We've got some guys coming back. Ian Anderson seems to be doing well in his rehab starts as he tries to come back from Tommy John. AJ Smith-Shawver just returned to action in Gwinnett. Spencer Schwellenbach has pitched well. I don't think it's translated into wins, but he has pitched really well. He's progressively getting better. It seems like it's like one bad pitch every outing that ends up doing him in, and it's like fourth or fifth inning, and he gives up the multi-run home run that ends up being the game winner.
The kill shot.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Ronnie did not compete last year.
Was it okay? It must have been
2 years.
He did compete 2 years in a row. I believe. But anyway,
yeah. Go ahead though. You're talking about Schwellenbach. He's showing that he can be
a serviceable
starter.
I honestly would take him over Charlie. Charlie's got the experience. I like him being in the locker room. I like him being in the bullpen. But I don't know that I want Charlie going out every 5 days and throwing. He's about 100 years old. So
cruel. He's younger than your next president. By several decades.
I mean, we have former presidents that are younger than our current presidential candidates.
Which is wild.
Yeah. So anyways, pitching, I think we're in a decent position. If we don't go out and trade for a pitcher, I won't be upset. Like a starting pitcher, I won't be upset. I think when it comes down to playoff rotation, you can roll out Max Fried, Chris Sale, and Ronaldo Lopez pretty successfully. And then I do think we need to go out and get some position players. I think the time is running up on Orlando Arcia. I think shortstop is a big position in need. And I think we need an outfielder. And I hate to say it, but I think Duvall is the odd man out when Michael Harris comes back. You got Kelnick, you got Harris, Gold Glove worthy candidates. Duvall is the odd man out. That should be a platoon. That was the intention for him to platoon with Kelnick.
Eddie Rosario at this point, right? But Kelnick's proven that he needs to be in the game on a regular basis.
Yeah, so the original intent was for Duvall and Kelnick to platoon, and you'd have Michael Harris and Ronald Acuna. But no, Eddie Rosario does help potentially in that, but I still think you go out if you can. We've been linked to guys like Randy Arozarena from the Rays, which would be a hell of a grab if we could get him. I do think, though, shortstop is a big hole. Arcia's just been a complete black hole in that lineup from a hitting perspective.
Yeah.
And I've seen our team linked to names like Bo Bichette, which former All-Star. Arcia's technically a former All-Star, but if we
as recently as last year,
yeah, he had an outstanding season last year. But if we could go get a guy like Bo Bichette, I would not be mad. And then one name which we haven't really been linked to, but I just want to throw it out into the universe as a possibility. He's a former Brave. He's from the area. He's an outstanding defensive player, but he's struggling, and I mean struggling from the plate, to the point where his fan base is getting a little bit agitated, and he needs to tell his wife goodbye. No, they should stay together. She plays a sport in the same city that they live, but he needs to...
Chicago?
Yeah.
Sheriff Dan?
Yeah, we need to bring back Sheriff Dan. He's struggling, man. He needs to have the Jesse Chavez, Eddie Rosario rebirth in the city of Atlanta and revitalize his career before they take him to the gallows in Chicago.
He's got a worse average than Orlando Arcia.
I know. Like I said, on paper, doesn't make as much sense, but I want to throw it into the universe so that it's a possibility. Because I do think if he were to return to Atlanta, a lot of things would start to right the ship for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a defensive Gold Glover, so
yeah,
you can afford. Yeah, you can afford to put him out there and let him work things out. You know, he wasn't doing great. I believe it was in Arizona that drafted him. He wasn't doing great, and it took him a while to get things going in Atlanta. For a former number 1 overall draft pick, Dansby had his struggles, but he got it together. And man, his last few years in Atlanta, they were nice.
They were stellar. They were indeed.
So bring back Sheriff Dan.
Bring back Sheriff Dan. Yeah, I'll support that. I don't know what other names. I mean, you mentioned Randy, right? That would be sweet. Other than him and Dansby, I don't know who else we would get. It feels like Eddie Rosario was one of the pieces for sure. I don't think there's a whole lot of action left that we're going to take, especially considering like the way that Schellenbach is played and that we do have so much pitching coming back that at one point or another has proven themselves to be competitive.
I think we see Bryce Elder leave. I think we see...
I'm tired of Bryce, man. You can go.
I think we may see Forrest Wall or Eli White leave hopefully Eli White instead of Forrest Wall. And I do think there's a pretty good possibility that Orlando Arcia is on the chopping block. So, with that being said, I don't know who you would go after. I don't know which way AA will lean in terms of prioritizing pitching or position players, but if it's me, I'm going to prioritize the bats over the pitching. And if I can get a couple pieces to add to the rotation or put into the bullpen, I will. But I don't necessarily consider Eddie one of those pieces. Because he was released and waived by the Nationals, and because we didn't have to trade for him, we just had to sign him to a minor league deal. I really think it was one of those situations. We're familiar with you. You've had some success here. We know what you are in the locker room. There's zero risk for us to sign you and just see if you put it back together, right? Like, you've had success here before. Let's see if that magic comes back. It's the same thing. We traded Jesse Chavez a few years ago. The team he was traded to, he did horrible.
Man, this guy's trash. You're fired.
Got fired, and we pick him back up, and he pitches lights out for us. Same season. Like, talk about one of the all-time floss jobs by a GM. Like,
he's still a roster spot though. Just talking about Eddie Rosario, right? Like, you don't sign him with the expectation that he's just gonna ride the bench. You think he's gonna turn it around and contribute?
No, you
right?
definitely give him a shot, and he's playing, right? So it tracks, but I don't think that AA is necessarily looking at that move as part of the deadline plan, right?
If he does nothing else, are you disappointed?
Oh yeah, I don't think that's even in a remote possibility. There will be some change. He'll do more than the Hawks.
Oh no, man. We'll see. We shall see. Because I think the Hawks still have some moves left in them. Cautiously optimistic, like you are for the Braves. So just flip the scales. I'll trade my hat with no hat, and we'll both be right in those individual circumstances.
Yeah, man.
All right, man. Well, go Braves. Chop on. I had a question for you, and we'll close on this. There was an article that came out today regarding breakout candidates for the Atlanta Falcons, and we won't spend a whole lot of time on it. There's some obvious names on this list. I'm sure you can guess at least two of them. But the other three kind of surprised me. So I want to get your thoughts on who you think is going to have the biggest breakout compared to what they did last year. So you got Drake London, third year in the league, hasn't had 1,000-yard season yet. I won't attribute that to him, right? You got Kyle Pitts, had 1,000-yard season, has not shown that form since his rookie year. But then it gets interesting. You got Clark Phillips, who's suspected to be the CB2, right on the other side of AJ Terrell, who they literally say was a healthy scratch for most of the season, but saw significant time on the back end, right? Then you have Zach Harrison, very similar situation to where he didn't play at all during the beginning, got some time towards the end as a rookie. And then the last one is yet another sophomore player, Matthew Bergeron, who was thrown into the fire and kept the job. So of those five, who do you think has the biggest leap?
I think the one that would stand out the most and has the highest probability of coming to fruition is Kyle Pitts. I think he is due for a breakout year, and he's healthy, and he's finally got a youngish quarterback that's competent. You know,
Yeah,
he played with Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is a fantastic quarterback. His um, production and his accolades speak for themselves. But when he was playing with Kyle Pitts, it was a shell of his former self in terms of physical ability. Right?
yeah,
He has it mentally. He was never known as a super great arm talent. His processing was elite. His understanding of the game was elite. And his short to mid range game was above average. Kyle Pitts did very well in his rookie year with Matt Ryan. The touchdowns weren't
I
what
was gonna
we.
say, except for in one area.
But Julio went through that with Matt Ryan, where Julio would have 1,500 yards and only 3 touchdowns. And it was because he never got targeted in the red zone. If Julio had a touchdown, it's because he yacked his way to a touchdown for 30 plus.
50-yard burner.
Yeah. So I'm not necessarily going to hold that against Kyle Pitts. Do I think we need to scheme him open a little bit in the red zone and utilize his athleticism? Yeah. But I think that's something that we'll do in Zach Robinson's offense and under the new regime. I really am excited about what we do offensively. And Captain Kirk, man, you know,
I agree with everything you said, except I apply all of that to Drake London. I think Drake London he might go to the Pro Bowl this year. All right, he's shown a lot, even with the poor quarterback play. He's shown a lot more razzle dazzle to me than Kyle Pitts has. Um, he's got some highlight reel catches, and he seems to want it. Right? I don't know. You know how I feel about Kyle Pitts, man. I'm hoping he has a good year, but throw that caution into my slight optimism. I do think he gets better as long as he's healthy. He'll have a better year, and it's hard not to, right? He's putting up Jonnu Smith numbers. I think Drake London goes above and beyond and really breaks out this year. I also think my dark horse would be Clark Phillips. More just because I'm hopeful because I know we need him to do well, right, in order to have a competitive defense. But I think he would be my dark horse number two.
my dark horse was a player you didn't name, and I'm sure that people will say that this is a bum take, but whatever. It's Bijan Robinson.
What a
He
bum take.
he had a good rookie season, right? But it was not what we expected out of Bijan. You know, he showed the athleticism, he showed the wiggle, he showed the ability. Like he has all of those attributes of a bona fide superstar, right? And you saw it.
Mhm.
But
Sorry.
the stats didn't necessarily translate, right? The fumbles, the total yards output weren't what we would expect in a 16 game regular season, right? And I think now that the running back room isn't as crowded and hopefully without a offensive coordinator trying to give the ball to 4 different guys and
Nuts.
just letting Bijan and Algier eat, like I think he'll have the touches. I think he'll have the carries that will drastically boost his output from his rookie to sophomore year. And that's why I consider it a breakout potential, right? Because the numbers can exponentially increase year over year, even though he does already kind of have that star aura around him.
Yeah. He wasn't listed, so I didn't think of anyone who wasn't on the list. But I agree. I think your take is strong. Not a bum. Take it off. And did you ever watch that Madden commercial
Which one? The
where I was talking about how the Falcons actually got some limelight. There's a shot of Bijan juking somebody, and then Drake London is making like the
no,
highlight reel catch.
I didn't
I was
watch.
supposed to add it to the last video. I didn't add it, so I'll tag it in this one.
I didn't watch that, but when you first asked, I thought about the NFL Street schedule release that they did.
Yeah,
I
yeah, that
did
was
go
cool.
back and watch that, and that was pretty dope.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job with that.
But yeah, I'm really excited for Falcon season. I'm excited for this upcoming college football season. We're, I think, less than 50 days away from college football, and I don't know where we are in terms of NFL, but we're coming up pretty fast on the start of the season. So I'm looking forward to it. Bennett is going to be taking his first gander at football this season. He went to a football camp and came home and was like, I want to play football this year. And it was done by the high school. And I asked him, I was like, so what do you like about football? He was like, tackling. I like to tackle.
Hey, that kind of mentality, dog, he could be real special.
Yeah, the
A
funny
lot of
thing.
people don't like getting hit, but if you like hitting people, it can work out.
The funny thing, and I actually think this is a super mature take for an 8-year-old, but I asked him, I was like, so you want us to sign you up for flag football or tackle football? And he said, I want to do flag football. I'm not ready to tackle people yet.
That's good.
Yeah. So he's
That's
like,
good.
I got to brush up and get that tackling prowess ready so I can go out there and murder folks.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I don't have a. We'll see what young Adrian turns into. Grayson is he's like his dad in many senses that I don't like being hit. Right? I played football for a couple years actually. I think I played what 4 years, 3 years, 3 or 4 years,
We played
and
together, bro.
yeah, no, I know. You played longer than I did though. Um, I mean, I had no problems hanging that up. Right, it was tough letting my hoop dreams die, but football, I was like, nah, I'm good. I've had enough. Grace is not looking to be hit. Maybe he'll like to hit people. He is a rough and tumble kind of guy, but he definitely need to be on defense.
I mean,
Delivering the hit, not being hit.
the story you told me before we got on the pod where he laid out the alcove on the ship.
Oh no, I laid him out.
But
Hey,
from which,
walls tackle pretty hard, man. They don't move. Immovable objects tackle really hard.
but it sounds like he took it pretty well.
He did. He did. He didn't injure himself.
He got back up, brushed it off.
He was mad as hell too. Oh man, he came into the room stomping, man. Daddy, you cheated. I'm like, all right, buddy, relax. Don't get yourself in trouble now. Reel it in.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, good. Mostly good things for our sports franchises.
Yeah.
The Hawks need to do something, but
Moves are coming, man. Moves are coming. I'm gonna call Landry. Or maybe I'll call Kyle. Looks like he's a little more obtainable if he's just out and around in Marietta.
yeah. Next time I see him, I'll pull him outside and give him a piece of my mind.
Say, man, what's going on? Come on to the pod. Tell the people we have 28 subscribers. We got a lot of people waiting to hear what you got
31.
to say, Kyle. Are we up to 31?
Yeah.
What? That's lit, man. That's lit.
We need you guys to help us get to 50, though.
We want 50. That's our next goal.
Half.
25 was a breeze.
We need that half century.
Mm-hmm. Like, subscribe, comment. We want it all. But we're gonna keep giving you content either way. But do it. Help us out. See you on the other side, man. Aloha Mark out.
Peace.
All right.